Commander Elias Kane's vision blurred under the pressure, as a cold voice echoed inside his mind. Slicing through his thoughts like a razor, "Surrender your will. Let me see through your eyes." The tyrant's telepathic grip tightened. Tendrils of alien consciousness probing the deepest recesses of his psyche. Elias' breath hitched. His fingers clenched the control panel of the battle bridge, knuckles whitening. But his mind screamed back, refusing to yield. "No," Elias growled, teeth clenched, voice raw. "Not today, not ever." Around him, the chaos of the Starship Valiant *S bridge erupted in a storm of alarms. Warning lights flashing crimson and blue, the air was thick with tension. The sharp scent of ozone and heated circuitry, mingling with the metallic tang of fear. Crew members scrambled, shouting orders, but Elias' world narrowed to the mental battlefield waged within his own skull. He could feel the tyrant's invasive presence like a parasite, slithering through memories, twisting emotions, seeking the cracks in his defenses. But Elias Kane was no ordinary soldier. Once a leading neuroscientist, his mind had been a fortress forged in the fires of loss and determination. The days when he had pored over neural synapses and cognitive maps were long behind him, replaced by the grim realities of war. Yet those years had armed him with a unique resilience. "Focus," he told himself. "Remember what you lost. Remember who you fight for." A flash of memory stabbed through the mental fog, his wife's smile, warm and fleeting. Before the invasion took her away, the tyrant tried to exploit that pain, amplifying the ache of absence. But Elias gritted his teeth, anchoring himself to that memory not as a weakness, but as strength. "Elias," a voice crackled over the comlink, sharp and urgent. Lieutenant Ramirez's words cut through the turmoil. "The tyrant's psychic assault is spreading. Shields are failing in Deck 7. We need you to stabilize the neural interface." He nodded, though no one could see him. "On it," he rasped, voice thick with strain. But inside, the battle raged fiercer than ever. Elias shifted his stance, muscles taut, as he fought to wrest control from the alien intruder. Sweat beaded on his forehead, trickling down as his mind struggled against the oppressive weight. The tyrant's thoughts slithered like venom, promising power in exchange for submission, whispering cruel taunts that threatened to shatter his resolve. "You cannot win, human. Your mind is fragile." But Elias' response was a defiant roar, silent yet thunderous in its intensity. He summoned every scrap of mental discipline he had ever learned, every technique from his years studying neural plasticity and cognitive defense protocols. He envisioned his mind as a fortress, walls reinforced with iron and fire, gates locked tight against the invader. His heart hammered painfully in his chest, memories flooding in, his son's laughter, the quiet evenings before the war. The promise he made to protect humanity. They were not just memories, they were anchors. Lifelines keeping him tethered to his identity. "Come on," Elias muttered under his breath, voice barely audible over the cacophony of alarms. "You're not taking me, not today." His hands moved swiftly over the console, activating countermeasures designed to disrupt psychic interference. Neural dampeners hummed to life, sending pulses of electromagnetic feedback to scramble the tyrant's invasion. The alien shrieked within his mind, a soundless scream that shook the foundations of Elias' consciousness. A flicker of doubt crossed his eyes, exhaustion threatening to overwhelm him, but he pushed harder. "This is your mind, your soul. Commander Kane," Ramirez's voice broke through again, urgency sharpening. "The crew needs you. We're counting on you." Elias exhaled slowly, grounding himself. The tyrant's presence was still there, clawing, but now battered and fragmented. He wasn't just fighting for control of his mind. He was fighting for the Valiant for the people aboard, for every life hanging in the balance. Suddenly, a surge of raw emotion erupted inside him, not fear but fury. The tyrant had stolen too much already. Blood, hope, futures. Ilias' voice rose, hoarse but fierce. You will not win. Not while I breathe. The alien faltered, the telepathic grip loosening as Ilias' will blazed brighter than ever. Before the war, Ilias hadn't been a soldier at all. He'd been a scientist, a pioneering neuroscientist with a mind hungry to unlock the secrets of human consciousness. His lab had been a sanctuary of light and quiet, filled with humming machines and data streams that danced like stars in the night. But that peace shattered the day the tyrants arrived. The invasion had been swift and brutal, tearing through human colonies with merciless efficiency. Ilias had lost everything, his wife, Miriam, to the initial assault, his son, Jonas, to the disease and despair that followed. Grief had nearly crushed him, but instead, it forged him into something stronger. He traded his lab coat for a uniform, vowing to use his knowledge to protect what remained. In the military, Ilias quickly earned a reputation, not just for his intellect but for his unwavering resolve. His colleagues saw in him a man haunted yet unbroken, a leader who bore the weight of loss as a shield rather than a shackle. Commander Kane, Ramirez had once said during a briefing, you're not just fighting the tyrants with weapons. You're fighting them with your mind, and that's what makes you dangerous. Ilias had only nodded, the memory of Miriam's gentle encouragement etched into his heart. Use your mind, use your pain. Now aboard the asterisk valiant asterisk, those words echoed louder than ever. The tyrant before him wasn't just an enemy. It was the embodiment of everything he had lost and everything he still fought to protect. His hands trembled slightly as he steadied himself, eyes scanning the holographic displays flickering erratically. The ship's neural interface was compromised, the strain evident in the fluctuating readings. The tyrant's psychic signature pulsed like a dark storm cloud, threatening to engulf the entire vessel. Ilias, Ramirez's voice softened for a moment, almost like a lifeline. Remember why you fight. He swallowed hard, the raw ache fresh and sharp. For them, his gaze flickered to the small hollow photo taped near his console, a faded image of Miriam and Jonas. Smiling in a moment frozen in time, the tyrant crashed again, a wave of psychic force that nearly shattered Ilias' concentration. He staggered, grasping the edge of the console, breath ragged. But inside, the scientist's mind took over, calculating, adapting. Neural feedback loop, amplify cortical resistance. Override synaptic intrusion. His fingers danced over the interface, initiating a counterassault that sent a pulse through the ship's systems. The tyrant's scream echoed one last time before the grip loosened, the dark tendrils retreating. Ilias collapsed into the chair, chest heaving, sweat soaking his uniform. Around him, the bridge slowly regained composure. Ramirez's voice came through, steady and relieved. You did it, Commander. You held the line. Ilias' lips curled into a tired, grim smile. We held it together, but this war, it's far from over. His eyes drifted back to the hollow photo, the faces of his family shining like stars in the dim light. The battle inside his mind was won, but the war for humanity's soul raged on. And Commander Ilias Kane would be ready to face it, mind, heart, and soul. Commander Ilias Kane sat rigidly in the cold metal chair of the Valiant S strategy room. The hum of the ship's engines a distant backdrop to the storm raging inside his mind. The dim glow of the holographic star map flickered erratically, mirroring the unrest that churned within him. His jaw clenched as the message from Admiral Harkin replayed in his thoughts. The warning as sharp as a blade, slicing through the fog of his exhaustion. This tyrant is unlike any we've faced, Kane. It reads minds, manipulates thoughts, and crushes willpower. Conventional tactics have failed. You're our last hope. The weight of command pressed down on him, heavier than the reinforced hull of the Valiant Asterisk. Elias' teammates, soldiers and scientists alike, had long grown wary of his methods. His approach to combat was unconventional, often alienating. While others relied on brute force and technology, Elias wielded an intimate understanding of the psyche. Blending neuroscience with battlefield strategy, this divergence had bred tension, suspicion, even resentment. Lieutenant Ramirez, his second in command, was a constant source of friction. "Kane, you need to stick to the plan," Ramirez had snapped during their last briefing, eyes flashing with frustration. "We don't have time for your mind games. The tyrant's threat is immediate. Brains over brawn won't save us." Elias had met that challenge with a cold stare. "It's not games, Ramirez. It's survival. And if you think brute force will win against a creature that invades the mind, you're already lost." Such exchanges were routine, a clash of ideologies that left the bridge a battlefield of its own. Even Admiral Harkin's trust in Elias was grudging, born from necessity more than belief. The man's brilliance was undeniable, but his emotional walls were as impenetrable as the starship's defenses. Tonight those walls felt thin. Elias' fingers drummed against the console, a rhythmic beat matching the thunderous pulse in his chest. He was a fortress of contradictions, unyielding and sharp, yet haunted by shadows of doubt. The years of loss had carved hollows in his spirit. Miriam's laughter, Jonas's bright eyes, they haunted him like ghosts, reminders of all he had failed to protect. Sometimes, in the still moments, those memories threatened to consume him, feeding insecurities that whispered he was not enough. He pushed the thoughts away, forcing his gaze onto the holographic projection of the tyrant. The creature's presence was like a black hole in the star map, an anomaly that bent reality insanity. The tyrant's unique ability to read and manipulate thoughts made every encounter a perilous game of mental chess. A battlefield where one misstep meant annihilation. Elias' mind raced, cataloging every known fact. The tyrant's telepathic powers had rendered traditional weapons useless. Energy blasts and missiles were mere distractions. The true battle was cerebral, a duel of wills and perception. His own experience with neural interfaces and cognitive defense protocols was the only advantage left. He exhaled slowly, the metallic scent of the room filling his nostrils. "I'm not just fighting to kill it," he muttered, voice low and strained. "There has to be another way. If we keep this cycle of violence, if we keep responding with destruction, we become no better than the tyrants." A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. Ramirez's voice crackled through the comlink. "Commander Kane, we're receiving new intel. The tyrant has breached Deck 11's neural grid. The crew's mental defenses are collapsing. We need you now." Elias' eyes narrowed. "On my way." He rose abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor, and strode down the corridor with purposeful steps. Each movement was deliberate, a man fighting the chaos both outside and within. As he passed the crew quarters, snippets of conversations floated in the air, whispers laced with fear. "Can Kane really stop it?" one voice questioned. Another muttered, "He's brilliant, but sometimes I wonder if he's too far gone." Elias ignored the murmurs, but they gnawed at him. He wasn't just fighting the tyrant. He was battling the skepticism and alienation of those around him. His unique approach, once seen as a beacon of hope, had become a source of division. But he couldn't afford to care. Not now. He arrived at the neural control room where the atmosphere was thick with tension. The walls pulsated with erratic energy, the neural interface flickering under psychic assault. Crew members worked frantically at their stations, eyes glazed with fatigue. "Commander," a technician called out, "the tyrant's influence is growing. It's probing deeper, reading our thoughts, twisting our fears. Traditional countermeasures aren't holding." Elias stepped forward, his voice calm but resolute. "We'll adapt, we must." His mind was already running through strategies, algorithms, and cognitive exercises. "Activate the cortical resistance protocols. I'll initiate a neural feedback loop to disrupt the tyrant's telepathy." "Are you sure that's safe?" the technician asked hesitantly. "It could cause psychological overload." Elias met the worried gaze with unwavering determination. "I have to try. The alternative is surrender." He placed his hands on the console, fingers moving with precision honed by years of study and battlefield necessity. The room seemed to hold its breath as he synchronized the ship systems with his own neural interface, linking his consciousness to the collective mindscape of the crew. A sudden jolt surged through him, the tyrant's psychic tendrils lashing out, probing for weakness. Elias gritted his teeth, pain flaring in his temples. The creature's voice echoed in his mind, cold and merciless. "You cannot hide your fears, Elias. Your mind is an open book." He forced his mental defenses higher, envisioning walls of iron and fire blocking the invader's gaze. His thoughts sharpened, focusing on the memories of his family, not as vulnerabilities but as unbreakable anchors. "Not today," he whispered fiercely, teeth clenched. The neural feedback loop sparked to life, sending waves of disruptive energy through the interface. The tyrant shrieked inside his mind, a soundless, searing agony that reverberated through the ship's circuits and crew's psyches. For a moment the darkness receded, but Elias knew this was only the beginning. As the feedback loop stabilized, he felt a tremor of doubt creep into his core. The strain was immense. The line between his own mind and the tyrant's blurred dangerously. What if the next wave overwhelmed him? What if he became the very monster he sought to destroy? Ramirez's voice broke through the chaos, steady and supportive. "Commander, you're holding the line. We believe in you." Elias allowed himself a fleeting, weary smile. "For them," he said softly, nodding toward the framed hollow photo taped near his console, the only image of Miriam and Jonas he carried with him. In that fragile moment, the room's tension eased, replaced by a collective breath of hope. But Elias knew the tyrant was cunning, patient. It would return, stronger and more insidious. He straightened, resolve hardening like tempered steel. His mission was clear, not merely to defeat but to understand, not just to survive but to find a path beyond endless conflict. The tyrant was the embodiment of humanity's darkest fears, but also the key to its redemption. Elias Kane was ready to face that challenge, alone if he must, armed with nothing but his mind, his pain, and an unyielding will to protect the fragile light of humanity. Commander Elias Kane's eyes snapped open, wide with alarm as a strange whisper slithered through his mind. "Not mine." The thoughts were foreign, alien, intrusive fragments weaving through the fabric of his consciousness like a subtle poison. He gripped the edge of the neural control console, knuckles blanching as the unsettling sensation crawled deeper. His breath hitched. "No, not now," he muttered, voice tight with growing dread. The tyrant was reaching inside again, but this time it was different. Before, Elias had felt its assault as a brutal invasion, violent, raw, something he could resist by sheer force of will. Now the intrusion was more insidious, a slow encroachment that blurred the line between his own thoughts and the invader's. It was as if tendrils of the tyrant's consciousness had begun to entwine with his own, whispering suggestions, planting doubts, seeding confusion. A cold sweat slicked his forehead. He tried to push the thoughts away, but they tangled with his memories, moments of hope and fear, twisting them into something unrecognizable. "You belong to me," the voice echoed, a distorted fragment of the tyrant's mind. Elias' heart pounded violently against his ribs. His fingers trembled as he pressed his palms hard against his temples, willing the alien presence to recede. but the more he fought, the stronger the intrusion became. The battle was no longer just about resisting control. It was about preserving the very essence of his selfhood. He staggered back from the console, voice hoarse. "Lieutenant Ramirez, status report." His command cut through the faint hum of the neural interface. Ramirez's voice crackled urgently through the comm. "Commander, the system's neural shields are fluctuating wildly. The tyrant's psychic tendrils are penetrating deeper than before. Crew mental stability is deteriorating. You need to contain this now." Elias clenched his jaw, a storm of conflicting emotions raging beneath his calm exterior. Fear gnawed at him, but so did a fierce determination. "If I let it in, I lose everything, but if I don't fight, we all fall." He swallowed hard, voice low but resolute. "I'm going in." Moments later, the world around him dissolved. The physical bridge faded away. Replaced by a swirling expanse of shifting colors and shapes, the vast realm of the mindscape where the tyrant's influence reigned supreme. Elias felt the familiar sting of psychic energy coursing through him. But now it was tinged with an unfamiliar vulnerability. The boundaries of his own mind felt porous, fragile. From the swirling mist, a dark figure emerged, the tyrant. Its form was amorphous yet terrifyingly precise, a shifting mass of shadows and psychic force. Its voice echoed inside Elias' skull, cold and taunting. "You cannot resist what you already fear, Elias. Your mind is mine to command." Elias squared his shoulders, summoning every ounce of mental discipline. "You're wrong," he growled, voice echoing in the void. "I fight for every soul you've tried to break. I am not yours." The tyrant's presence surged forward, tendrils of psychic energy probing his defenses like serpents testing for weakness. Elias felt the pressure like a vice tightening around his consciousness, threatening to crush his sense of self. He forced himself to focus, recalling the cognitive exercises he'd painstakingly developed during his years as a neuroscientist, mental fortifications designed to resist intrusion and maintain clarity under assault. He visualized walls of shimmering light, barriers of pure willpower blocking the tyrant's advance. But the creature was cunning. It twisted his own thoughts against him, conjuring vivid illusions, memories of his wife Miriam's final moments, his son Jonas's fading smile, weaponizing his pain. Doubt seeped into his mind. Was he strong enough? Was his identity resilient enough to withstand this onslaught? Elias' voice cracked as he whispered, "I'm not afraid, not yet." Suddenly, the tyrant shifted tactics. Instead of direct assault, it tried to communicate, probing the depths of Elias' curiosity. "Why do you fight, human? What drives your fragile will? Show me your weakness." Elias hesitated, a flicker of intrigue sparking in his mind. For years, he had viewed the tyrant as a monstrous enemy, an alien force of destruction. But now, in this mental arena, he sensed something else: intelligence, a cold logic beneath the malice. Understanding that could be the key to survival. "Tell me," Elias said, voice steadying. "What are you really after?" The tyrant's form rippled, and for a fleeting moment, a fragment of clarity pierced the chaos. "Control, survival, evolution. You are not so different, Elias." A surge of realization washed over him. This was no mindless beast. The tyrant's psychic dominance was a sophisticated system, a neural network designed to assimilate and control. Its strength lay in symbiosis, in breaking down resistance through mental infiltration. Elias' mind raced. If he could map the tyrant's psychic architecture, identify its neural pathways, he might find a way to sever the control circuits, to disrupt the invader from within. The challenge was immense. The tyrant's telepathic grip was like a labyrinth of shifting shadows, each pathway guarded by psychic sentinels. But Elias was no ordinary soldier. His background in neurobiology gave him An edge, a way to see the enemy not just as a threat, but as a complex system to be hacked. He reached deep into his mental toolkit, calling upon visualization techniques to project a mental interface, a shimmering network of nodes and connections, representing the tyrant's control system. His fingers twitched as if manipulating invisible controls. "Let's see how resilient you really are," Elias muttered, initiating a mental counterattack designed to fragment the tyrant's control matrix. Pulses of psychic energy radiated outward, targeting the control nodes. The tyrant screamed within the mindscape, a soundless roar that rippled through the mental realm. Its hold faltered, tendrils withdrawing as Elias' assault disrupted the neural links. But the victory was fleeting. The tyrant retaliated with a wave of psychic pressure, a crushing force that slammed into Elias' consciousness with the weight of a collapsing star. He staggered, vision blurring, memories twisting into nightmares. Struggling to stay upright in the mental void, Elias gasped, "I won't let you win." The tyrant's voice echoed again, softer this time, almost pitying. "You are fragile, Elias. Your mind fractures. Soon I will walk through your thoughts as if they are my own." A cold shiver ran down Elias' spine. The line between self and alien blurred dangerously. He felt a flicker of panic, a moment where surrender seemed the only escape from the torment. But then a spark of defiance flared. He thought of Miriam's unwavering belief in him, of Jonas's innocent hope for a better future. These memories, once a source of pain, now became shields, impenetrable anchors tethering him to himself. Summoning all his strength, Elias pushed back, reinforcing his mental walls with blazing light. "No," he whispered fiercely, "you will never control me." The tyrant recoiled, its shadowy form wavering. The mindscape began to stabilize as Elias reclaimed ground, the alien presence shrinking under his relentless will. Panting, Elias slowly opened his eyes back on the *Valiant *S bridge. The neural interface flickered but held steady. He wiped the sweat from his brow, feeling the exhaustion settle deep in his bones. Lieutenant Ramirez's voice crackled through the comlink, filled with relief. "Commander, you're holding the line. The crew's mental defenses are stabilizing." Elias allowed himself a brief, weary smile, but beneath that triumph simmered a thorny fear. This battle had exposed a terrifying truth. The tyrant's power was not just brute psychic force, it was a creeping infection, a parasite that could erode the mind from within. He knew the war was far from over, and the greatest danger lay not in the enemy's strength, but in the fragile fortress of his own mind. As the *Valiant *S systems hummed steadily once more, Elias Kane resolved silently. He would master this inner battlefield. He would learn the tyrant's secrets, and he would fight not just with weapons or tactics, but with the very core of his being. Because surrender was not an option, not today, not ever. Commander Elias Kane's breath hitched as the tyrant's insidious voice echoed inside his mind once again. Colder and more piercing than before. "Remember her pain, Elias. The loss that haunts you, let it consume your will." The psychic tendrils slithered through the corridors of his memories, unearthing the most painful, fragile moments: Miriam's last smile, Jonas's fading laughter, raw wounds exposed to the alien parasite's probing claws. Elias' fingers trembled, clutching the neural control console as sweat beaded on his brow. The weight of that torment threatened to shatter his resolve. His heart pounded fiercely, the mental battlefield turning into a maelstrom of agony and defiance. He gritted his teeth, voice barely a whisper, "You won't break me." Not like this, but the tyrant's assault had escalated beyond brute psychic force. It wasn't simply tearing at his defenses anymore. It was weaving itself into the fabric of his very thoughts, twisting his own memories into weapons against him. The alien strategy was cruelly brilliant. It sought to fracture Elia's psyche by drowning him in the sorrow and guilt he carried like chains. "Why do you persist, Elias?" the tyrant hissed, its voice a venomous caress inside his mind. "Your pain is your weakness. Surrender and I will release it." Elias' vision blurred momentarily as the painful flashback surged forth, Miriam's gentle hand slipping away, Jonas's bright eyes dimming under the shadow of war. The temptation to give in clawed at him, a siren song promising relief. Yet deep within, a flicker of clarity ignited. This pain is not a chain but a fire, he reminded himself. It fuels me, it anchors me. His pulse slammed in his ears as he faced the impossible choice, wield the raw, violent power of his psychic abilities in a fierce counterattack that could obliterate the tyrant's intrusion, but risk losing himself to the overwhelming mental storm, or shift his approach entirely, embracing empathy and connection as his weapon against a foe who thrived on domination. His mind raced, a tempest of conflicting instincts and memories. The urge to retaliate with violent psychic force burned hot, promising swift victory. Yet a gnawing doubt whispered, is destruction the answer? Will more violence only feed the tyrant's hunger? Elias' breath slowed, his thoughts sharpening. He saw now that the battle was not just for control of his mind, but for the essence of what he was fighting to protect, his humanity. "Ramirez," Elias spoke through the comlink, voice strained but steady. "Prepare the neural interface for a different kind of maneuver. I'm not going to fight fire with fire." There was a pause before Ramirez responded, cautious but trusting. "Understood, Commander, standing by." Elias closed his eyes, diving deep into the mental landscape where the tyrant lurked. The swirling miasma of psychic energy pulsed with malevolence, tendrils probing for weakness. Yet this time, Elias did not meet them with brute force. Instead, he reached inward, seeking the common threads that bound them both, the desire to survive, to evolve, to find meaning. Within the mindscape, the tyrant's form shimmered, its shifting shadows coalescing into a more defined shape, not merely an enemy, but a mirror reflecting Elias' own fears and hopes. "Why do you resist so fiercely?" The tyrant's voice echoed softly, almost curious. "You and I, we are not so different, both shaped by pain, both driven by the need to overcome." Elias' gaze met the alien's, unwavering. "I fight not to dominate but to protect. To preserve what makes us human, empathy, connection, hope. You seek control through fear. I seek understanding through compassion." The tyrant hesitated, its psychic tendrils retracting slightly, as if surprised by this unexpected response. Elias sensed a fragile opening, a crack in the alien's armor of cruelty. Summoning every ounce of his mental discipline, Elias began weaving a new mental pattern, a tapestry of shared experience and peace, reaching through the darkness to touch the tyrant's fractured consciousness. His mind became a bridge, not a battleground. "You don't have to be a tyrant," Elias whispered inside the void. "There is strength in peace, in connection, in choosing to build rather than destroy." The alien's form flickered, uncertainty rippling through its psychic presence. The battle within Elias' mind shifted from raw conflict to a delicate dance, a negotiation of wills and intentions. Yet this choice carried profound risk. To open himself to the tyrant's influence was to invite vulnerability, to blur the lines between self and other. Elias' core trembled with the fear of losing his identity, of becoming the very thing he despised. His thoughts wavered, a tempest of doubt and hope clashing in his soul. "If I surrender my essence, who will remain?" But Elias' resolve solidified with the memory of Miriam's unwavering faith and Jonas's innocent dreams. He would not lose himself, but transcend the boundaries of hatred and fear. With a surge of focused will, Elias projected a neural construct, a mental rewrite, designed to recalibrate the tyrant's intentions, shifting its core programming from conquest to coexistence. Like a master coder rewriting corrupted code, he infused the alien consciousness with visions of harmony and peace. Inside the mindscape, the tyrant's psychic form convulsed, the dark tendrils unraveling and reforming. The oppressive force that had threatened to consume Elias now shimmered with a new light, tentative, fragile, but unmistakably hopeful. Change is possible, Elias' whispered, voice resolute. Not through domination, but through understanding. The mental storm subsided, the oppressive weight lifting from Elias' mind as the tyrant's presence transformed. It no longer sought to destroy, but to listen, to learn, to evolve alongside humanity instead of against it. Back on the Valiant S bridge, the neural interface stabilized, alarms quieting as systems normalized. Elias sagged into his chair, exhaustion washing over him like a tide, but beneath the fatigue, a profound calm settled. Ramirez's voice crackled through, disbelief and relief mingling. "Commander, the tyrant's psychic signature is changing. It's withdrawing. We're stable." Elias allowed himself a weary smile, fingers brushing the hollow photo of Miriam and Jonas. "We may have just rewritten the future," he murmured. And yet, the victory was bittersweet. The choice to reach out rather than strike had exposed the rawest parts of his soul, leaving him vulnerable in ways he had never imagined. The war was far from over, and the path ahead was uncertain. But Elias Kane had embraced a new truth, that true strength was not in domination or destruction, but in the courage to connect, to heal, and to change, even when the stakes were the very survival of humanity itself. Commander Elias Kane's breath came in ragged gasps as the last echoes of the tyrant's psychic storm ebbed away, leaving a fragile calm in the neural control room. The oppressive weight that had clawed at his mind for weeks now seemed to shimmer with an unfamiliar light. Yet beneath the surface of that tenuous peace, Elias felt a tremor, a deep, unsettling shift within himself. He was no longer just a man resisting an invader. He was becoming something new, something less defined. His fingers hovered over the console, trembling slightly as he wrestled with the consequences of what he had just done. The tyrant's mind, the alien consciousness that had haunted and assaulted his thoughts, was no longer a hostile fortress, but a malleable entity. Elias had taken the unimaginable step. He had reached out, woven himself into the tyrant's neural fabric, and attempted to rewrite the very essence of the enemy's will. "Ramirez," Elias whispered, voice raw and heavy, "status report. How stable are the systems now?" Lieutenant Ramirez's voice crackled through the comlink, tinged with disbelief and cautious hope. "Commander, the neural interface readings have stabilized beyond expectation. The tyrant's psychic signature is shifting. It's withdrawing its hostile patterns and adopting the neural harmony. Protocols you initiated. This could be the breakthrough we've been searching for." Elias exhaled, a bittersweet smile tugging at his lips. "Good, but at what cost?" He rubbed his temples, fighting the ache that radiated from deep within his mind. The psychic melding with the tyrant had exacted a toll. He could feel the alien tendrils still entwined around fragments of his thoughts. Part of his psyche had been irrevocably altered. A piece of himself now shared with the very consciousness he had once sought to destroy. The room was silent, except for the faint hum of the ship's systems. Around him, the crew began to sense the shift, the tension lessening, the oppressive dread lifting. Yet Elias knew the war was far from over. This was a fragile truce born of risk and sacrifice, a delicate bridge between two worlds long locked in deadly conflict. He sank into his chair, trembling as the enormity of his decision settled over him. A storm of emotions raged beneath his calm exterior: fear, doubt, hope, and an aching loneliness that cut deeper than any wound. "Commander," Ramirez's voice softened, "you did what no one else dared. You reached across the void, but how do you feel? Are you okay?" Elias closed his eyes, searching inward. The merging of minds had left scars, ghosts of alien thoughts flickering at the edges of his consciousness. He was stronger for it, yet diminished in ways he could not fully grasp. "I feel fragmented," Elias admitted quietly, "like I am both myself and something more. Something connected. It's terrifying and yet strangely liberating." Ramirez's tone was steady but filled with concern. "You've always been willing to bear the weight of this war alone. But you don't have to, not now." Elias opened his eyes, meeting Ramirez's steady gaze. "That's the thing, Ramirez. I'm not sure who I am anymore, not entirely. This war has cost me so much, but this choice may cost me everything. My mind, my identity. But if it ends the bloodshed, if it brings peace between our people and the tyrants, then maybe it's worth it." He paused, swallowing hard as memories of Miriam's laughter and Jonas's bright eyes flooded his mind. The pain was still there, raw and vivid, but now it served as a beacon rather than a chain. "Peace isn't just the absence of war," Elias continued, voice steadying. "It's the courage to understand the enemy, to find common ground even when it seems impossible. I chose to risk losing a part of myself to create that possibility." Ramirez nodded slowly, respect and empathy shining through. "You've given us a chance, a real chance, but you need to take care of yourself too, Elias. You're not just a commander or a scientist. You're a man who's carried too much alone." Elias allowed himself a brief, weary smile. "I know. And maybe it's time I stopped carrying it all by myself." The bridge crew began to murmur among themselves, a tentative hope blossoming in their voices. The tyrant's transformed psychic presence was no longer a looming threat but a potential ally, a harbinger of a new era. Suddenly, a soft chime alerted Elias to an incoming message. The holographic display flickered, revealing Admiral Harkin's stern face, etched with a mix of skepticism and cautious optimism. "Commander Kane," Harkin's voice was grave but less severe than usual, "I've reviewed your report. This new approach to the tyrant is unprecedented. It defies every strategy we've employed. Are you certain this alliance is stable? Can we trust this change?" Elias met the Admiral's gaze with unwavering conviction. "Admiral, trust is a fragile thing, but we have no choice but to try. This war has drained our strength and shattered our spirits. If we continue down the path of violence, there will be nothing left to save." Harkin's expression softened, a flicker of hope breaking through his hardened exterior. "Very well, you have my support, but proceed with caution. The future of humanity depends on this fragile peace you've forged." As the Admiral's image faded, Elias turned back to the neural interface. The tyrant's psychic presence pulsed gently, a sign of life, of something reborn. He reached out with his mind, touching the alien consciousness with a tentative thread of empathy. The tyrant's voice resonated softly, no longer laced with malice, but with something akin to curiosity. "Elias, human, you have rewritten the code of our conflict." "What now?" Elias hesitated, then answered with quiet resolve. "Now we learn, we build together." The room seemed to breathe with newfound energy as the crew gathered around, sensing the profound shift not just in the battle, but within their commander. Yet beneath Elias' calm exterior a tempest raged, a mixture of relief and sorrow, hope and sacrifice. The merging with the tyrant had left him altered, bearing wounds invisible to the eye but etched deep within his soul. Late into the night, Elias sat alone in his quarters, the hollow photo of Miriam and Jonas glowing softly beside him. His reflection in the viewport was a man changed, not just by war, but by a choice that blurred the lines between self and other. He whispered into the quiet, "I may have lost a part of who I was, but I've gained a chance for what we could become. And that is worth everything." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to a fragile new dawn. The war was not yet over, but a seed of hope had been planted in the fertile ground of understanding and compassion. Commander Elias Kane closed his eyes, feeling the alien presence intertwining with his own, a reminder that true victory was not won by force, but by the courage to embrace the unknown, to heal, and to forgive. In that moment, humanity's future glimmered with possibility, a testament to the power of empathy and the indomitable strength of the human spirit.